All right, guys, lesson number 5 is only invest in companies that you fully understand, okay? Now, how do you go about this and what's the mindset behind this, okay? So myself in the early days, here's how I kind of thought about it, okay? So in the early days, I worked for a company named Walgreens, okay? Ticker symbol used to be WAG back in the day. I used to work for a company named Walgreens. This is the most successful pharmacy chain in the entire world, okay? So automatically, I was introduced to the most successful pharmacy chain in the entire United States of America and the entire world, okay? So I worked for a premier retailer, okay? I worked for a premier retailer. And then in 2010, excuse me, I got hired by a company named QT, okay? Quick Trip. This is the most successful convenience store chain probably in the history of the world. The amount of profit they make per store is really unreal. I can't share that number with you guys because they are a private company, but it's incredible, and I don't think there's anyone even close to them. They're like the creme de la creme of convenience stores. So I work for Walgreens, I work for Quick Trip. So a lot of my most successful investments in the early days were around what? What do you think my most successful investments a lot of times were in the early days? Retail, okay? Retail. I understood this industry very well. I worked for two unbelievably multi-billion-dollar successful retailers, okay? And at QT, I worked in management. So I really understood the retail sector, and I can really understand what a great retailer does, what a great retailer is, what the true valuation of a great retailer is, because I'm from the retail industry. I understand these things. I come from management and whatnot. Very easy for me to see that sector, okay? Now, off of those things, I could also look into other types of investments based upon those, all right? So I'll give you a super successful, one of my most successful investments I ever made as far as the percent of money I made on that was a company named Monster Beverage, okay? Back when I invested in them, they were actually called Hanson's Natural Beverage at that time. They changed their name to Monster a few years back, but back then they were actually called Hanson's Natural Beverage, okay? How did I learn about Monster? Well, at QT, I was working at QT, and I saw there's this energy drink that's moving more than not just energy drinks, but we're selling more of these Monsters than we're selling any drink-related product in the entire store. In the entire store, we were selling more of these Monsters than anything. So I get the idea, I'm like, what is this Monster? Who owns this? So I started looking into it, I started researching and whatnot. I found out it was a public company. Hanson's Natural Beverage owns this business, right? And I'm like, this is a space that's just blowing up. And look at these sales numbers versus last year and whatnot, because I could see all that in the QT system and whatnot. So right off the bat, I got a ton of information on something because it was in a sector that was very, relatable to me, and I could understand their business. I understood, who they were using for distribution. I understood their business so well. So then I could kind of understand the drink space as well. So I understand retail, I understand drinks and whatnot, okay? Now, it's not just those, okay? It's fine if you kind of work in some certain industries and you kind of have a better view, and those ones are really easy, okay? The ones that you can kind of understand the sector and whatnot because you actually work in the sector or something that branches off of that sector, those ones are fairly easy investments to make, okay? And those ones you're probably going to be super successful at, and more than likely because you understand that industry so well. But you can also do the research work, okay? You can do the research work behind a company or industry. Now, this is a very time-consuming process, okay? To learn an industry that you got no clue about, to learn about a sector you have no clue about, it's very time consuming. The first one I really remember vividly as far as a sector I had no clue about was when I made my Trinity investment, my Trinity Industries investment, okay? Their ticker symbol back then was TRN. It might still be now. I don't know what the company's doing nowadays. I think I sold out of that position in 2013 or 2014 or something like that. Did phenomenal in the stock. This was basically, they had a construction side of their business. They also had a part of their business that was moving basically oil and natural gas and things like that in these rail cars, okay? So I learned all about this industry. I learned everything that I could possibly know about where the industry was going. And so I kind of saw what was going on in North Dakota and whatnot. And there was a big, huge oil boom out in North Dakota. And it was just getting crazy out there with fracking and whatnot, starting in 2009, going into 2010, 2011. So in 2010-ish, 2011, I really looked into this company. I looked into the sector, understood everything there was to understand about it, researched everything from safety protocols to all of this type of stuff to, what's the chance that a pipeline is going to get installed in the United States. I didn't see that coming anytime soon. So I made this big investment in Trinity Industries, and it paid off in a huge way. But I made sure I understood the full industry before I ever put a dime into that company, okay? I researched everything there was to understand about that. Reading those 10Ks and 10Qs, it will give you so much information. Listen to those conference calls, okay? So it's not impossible. The next one I probably learned a lot about was Facebook, okay? Facebook was the next one I probably learned about, which I had no clue about, really, social networking, how they made money or anything back then. Now almost everybody understands how Facebook makes money, right? But back when I made my investment in them, which was I think 2012, maybe, yeah, 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. By the way, Facebook was $20. I bought shares of Facebook at $20 a share. And I sold them for about $21, $22, guys. Can you believe that? I wish I still held those shares. That was a big mistake I made. I should have held those shares. Now they're 140 or whatever. Oh my goodness. But anyways, I did well with other investments and whatnot. But Facebook, so I buy this company, at $20 a share because I really understood the industry, okay? But there's one thing I'm disappointed on as far as my Facebook investment went. I didn't research it enough. Okay? I got a little bit lazy with the Facebook investment. I just got a little bit lazy with it, okay? I never really researched Facebook as much as I should have researched Facebook. And that was a big mistake, guys. That was a big mistake. That was a costly mistake because I can almost guarantee you, in a matter of 5 or 6 years, it's gone from 20 to 140, whatever. It's hard to beat that type of return, and I don't think I made that type of return, with my other stocks in that amount of time. I did very well, absolutely, but I don't think I did that well. I got a little lazy with my research probably with that Facebook. Then when it went up a little bit, I was like, oh, I made a quick profit in this. I just sold it off, and I never really fully realized how much potential that one had. If I'd done a little more research there, I probably would have stayed in that one and even gone bigger into it and done really well. But I learned all about social networking, all about how it works, everything they were kind of looking at, all that type of stuff, okay? And then I kind of think about, when I learned about Cirrus Logic Cruise, okay? This was a company that, oh my goodness, they're in the semiconductor space. I don't even know. I used to not even know what a semiconductor was. When I started researching this one, I think it was 2013, okay, I started looking at this company. I didn't even know what they did. Like what's a semiconductor? They're in a smartphone? What do they do in a smartphone? That was a sector I had to do a massive amount of research, okay? And it wasn't just the fact that I looked into Cirrus Logic. I looked into Cirrus Logic's competitors and what Cirrus Logic's competitors were doing and how their business model was going. I looked into just the semiconductor space in general. So I looked into companies like Qualcomm, Skyworks Solutions, Intel, a lot of different companies that might be playing in the semiconductor space. I looked into all those and kind of just understood the business model. It took almost 9 months for me to really fully understand the semiconductor industry and understand what everybody's doing and the participants there and whatnot. It took me about 9 months of research. So these things do take time if you want to learn about a sector you don't really know yet. But make sure you're always only investing in companies you fully understand, okay? None of these investments would have been successful if I wouldn't have fully understood them, right? Because I wouldn't have never put a dime in them. I would have been completely honest. I would have never put a dime in them. Or if they had sold off, a little bit, I would have sold out. By the way, in Cirrus Logic's case, I invested in that one big. I think it was fall of 2014, somewhere around, oh gosh, I think it was somewhere around $19, right? A few weeks later, that stock goes down to $16 range, okay? $16 range. I buy in big when it's down here in the 16s. Next thing you know, a year or two later, the stock's in the 40s, okay? If I hadn't done the full research behind that stock, it goes down to 16, maybe I just sell because I'm like, oh, there was so many worries about that time. Oh, Apple might drop them, blah, blah, blah. Just whatever they were making up out there, right? I may have never got that gain if I didn't fully understand that. So make sure you're only investing in companies you fully understand. It's possible to learn new industries. You just got to spend the time. It's going to take a while. This took me several months to understand. This took me about a month to understand. This took me about 6-9 months plus to understand, guys. So make sure you're doing the full research behind it and make sure you're only investing in stocks you understand.